Hi, everyone. I'm Sue Hilliard, and welcome to our EA Zoom meeting today, March 30th, 2023, featuring our newest speaker, Diana Wahbeh. Diana has received training in different forms of yoga and yoga philosophy and meditation, as well as evolutionary astrology. She is part of a charity-based yoga center in Ramallah that tries to reach out to the community and whose name stands for selfless service. Diana holds a degree in European literature from Cambridge University, UK, and has taught English language, reading, and writing. She has a blog where she writes about her experience living and growing up as a Palestinian. She also likes to write about certain events from an archetypal and astrological perspective. Diana is in mentorship with Simon Vorster in order to introduce evolutionary astrology to her part of the world. Today, her topic is feasts, fasting, and potential violence in Jerusalem. What is Saturn in Pisces spinning in Jerusalem? Welcome, Diana. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Okay, so many astrologers have been speaking about Saturn in Pisces. And in my presentation today, I'm hoping to offer a presentation that is slightly different. I will speak about real life events happening around me where I live. And I think that these events are not getting enough attention, in my view, from an astrological perspective. However, these real events do embody the archetypes of both Capricorn and Pisces, so Saturn through Pisces, both in terms of the shadow elements, but also in terms of the potentially hopeful message that this transit holds. Now, the title of my presentation, Feasts and Fasting and Potential Violence in Jerusalem, indicates where I live. I live in a place not very far from Jerusalem, and I have been observing these events very closely over the past few years. And I find that the developments of the events very intriguing. I find that the way the events are lining up with this astrological transit, as I said, very intriguing. And allow me to show you what I mean. So a little bit of introduction here. So Saturn represents structure, of course. Saturn points to where there's room for emotional growth that is necessary for building structure. So emotional maturity, of course, is important for building structure, for having boundaries. And healthy boundaries is very important, is indispensable for mutual respect and coexistence. And to link this with what is happening in Jerusalem, I will address religion as belief structures. Because Jerusalem is a city where religious identities feel very threatened. And religious identities in Jerusalem, they try forcibly to protect themselves in the face of what each religious identity considers as an infringement on its boundaries, its religious freedoms and rights. And I think Saturn in this context is welcomed to do its job, which is building structure, building boundaries, healthy boundaries. And usually when I say healthy boundaries, what comes to my mind is an image of stone fences. There it is, stone fences. Many places around the world, of course, have these, and traditionally the houses in Palestine also have these stone fences, and I like them because they represent healthy boundaries. Neighbors can talk to each other, can see each other, but still there are borders, there are healthy boundaries. And I think that Jerusalem is a city that needs the maturity of Saturn in Pisces in order for the city to achieve its full potential as a beacon for religious tolerance. And similarly, Pisces is also welcomed to do its part of the bargain. Pisces is invited to melt down the barriers, the mental barriers. And I sometimes see belief systems, whether religious or other, I see them as barriers that are preventing us from reaching our full potential. And these barriers are, there are barricades that we need to step out of in order to reconstruct whatever is inside of us, to reconstruct whatever beliefs we have to reconstruct these, to reconstruct them in a way that allows us to move forward. And I really like the image that is next to the to this first line over here, mental barriers, because it represents belief systems as a wall that we need to break through and to see what's beyond there. And I really like what is written underneath the eyes. And it's saying over here, the sentence, I see you. Do you see me as well? And I think this is a very simple message symbolizing how belief systems can prevent us from seeing the other as is, without projections, without fears, and without judgments as well. And I have here as well the idea of beliefs, and I call them heinous beliefs because unfortunately I grew up watching the conflict between the three religions in this region. I watched the conflict taking different forms across time, and I came to understand that the fundamental belief plaguing the mind of many is superiority. And so it's this belief that my religion is superior, that my religion is sacred and it holds the truth, the ultimate truth. And Pisces is invited to dissolve these beliefs, these heinous beliefs, and to dissolve these barriers. There's also this notion of emotions. I mean, emotions is a big part in any conflict. And I like also this image of the eye having or portraying the anger, but also this need or this call for revenge. And this is a big theme in this context of where I live. And so Pisces is invoked to diffuse these emotions, these fearful emotions. Pisces, I think, is also invited to dissolve, as I said, these beliefs and barriers. And the way I see it, that the timing of Saturn going through Pisces is saying that even if there are potentially violent confrontations, I mean, I hope these confrontations don't happen and violence doesn't erupt, but in case it happens, then Saturn is probably saying that it's time for these religions or these belief structures to see each other. It's time to, as I said, melt these barriers, even burn them down, beliefs and emotions, in order to reconstruct healthier boundaries based on a more mature grounds that allow for religious freedoms to be respected and honored, religious freedoms and beliefs. And I think that these 3 points that I have, or these 3 ailments, if you allow me to call them that, they are really in need of the balsamic medicine of Pisces. So Saturn, in a way, is saying time for the 3 religions to work on these issues, to at least have an insight in them and to work through them. I think Jerusalem is a city that needs that balsamic medicine of that oneness that allows for its fragments to coexist. And I will come back and touch on this idea of belief later in my presentation. But first, I would like to address the idea of feasts and fasting that I mentioned in the title, because I think that the timing of these celebrations is, as I said, very intriguing. I mean, the timing is helping to ignite the violence. So how and why, of course, I will walk you through this with me of how and why this timing is very interesting or intriguing. So let me begin by, talking about these celebrations. So let's begin with the Christian traditions. So just when Saturn entered Pisces, the Christians in the Middle East and also in Palestine began a 40-day fast, vegan fast. And I find it interesting that this happens usually around the springtime. So now it's the springtime and the hills are just full of naturally grown vegetables that grow only for 1 month each year. And it's as if the nature is helping them in their act of fasting. And during or around the last week of the fasting, there's a celebration on the 8th of April. There's a celebration, let me just move maybe the image. There's a celebration that is called the Holy Fire Celebrations. And I don't know if in the West, anybody is familiar with this, with these celebrations, or if the fasting is practiced. I'm not sure that it is, but in this celebration, or the Holy Saturday celebration is also another name for it. In this celebration, there's a flame of fire that is brought from the Holy Church of Sepulchre, which is the church where the tomb of Jesus is there. And so this flame of fire, is symbolic to the light. I mean, in Arabic, this celebration is called the Saturday of the Light. So Sabt an-Nur. So it's symbolic of this light spreading through. So this flame of fire is brought from the church and is distributed to all the churches around Palestine. And before 1948, it was distributed to all churches around the Middle East. And it's a very fun day. There are like parades and celebrations and scouts that come out and they want to receive that flame of fire, and they light up their candles and they take them to churches and they pray for the rest of the day. So that's in terms of the Christian holidays. Now, for Muslim holidays, Ramadan, of course, just began. And Muslim months or Islamic months are lunar calendar, meaning that the month begins when the new moon is seen by the naked eye, and the month ends when the next new moon is seen by the naked eye. So the month of Ramadan began with the Aries new moon. So the Aries new moon that we had recently was on the 21st of March. So, and it happened around the evening, here around 8:23 p.m. So the new moon was seen on the 22nd of March, and therefore the 23rd of March was the beginning of the month of Ramadan, where Muslims fast. And the month of Ramadan will end when the next new moon, as I said, will be seen by the naked eye. And and that will be around the same time of Easter. So the celebration of the ending of the fast for Muslims will coincide exactly with the Easter holidays, maybe just a 1-day difference, maybe because it depends on when we see the new moon. And I find it interesting that the Islamic months are lunar calendar, which means that each year there's a 10-day difference. And so this year, with Saturn entering Pisces, there's the month of Ramadan is happening at the same time with the Easter holiday, but also with the Passover holiday. And this will continue next year. So when Saturn is still in Pisces, and maybe in the year 2025. So around the time when Saturn leaves Pisces, this will stop being the case, because then the month of Ramadan will shift towards February. So I find this also very intriguing and very interesting. Now, as for the Jewish holidays, as you can see, there's the holiday of Purim. It was a very quick holiday that happened in just around the same day that Saturn entered through Pisces. And this is the holiday where they dress up with costumes, usually city costumes. But also we have almost next week, so between the 5th and the 13th of April, we have the Passover, and there's a one-day fast before the holidays as well. So all the three celebrations of ending of the holidays are happening around the same time or at the same time, and also coinciding with the eclipses as well. Now, all of that sounds great, right? Sounds Piscean, sounds dreamy. However, if it weren't for that belief that my religion is sacred, is superior, and is closed off. Now, because of the celebrations happening all at the same time, so the followers of the three religions will, of course, flock to the old city of Jerusalem, where all the religious edifices are found. They would want to celebrate and do the rituals in the sacred sites. And it is expected because of the tension that will take place, that some of the access to these holy places will be limited. Let me show you exactly what I mean. So, for example, here you have an image of the Dome of the Rock, this building with the golden dome on top. It's called Dome of the Rock. Now, this is a site that is highly contested because during the last week of Ramadan, which is just around Passover, hundreds and thousands of Muslims will, traditionally and historically and naturally would want to go and pray inside the mosque. And usually the last week of Ramadan is the week that is devoted for prayers. And so many Muslims actually spend the whole week, day and night, praying inside, especially the religious people, praying inside this mosque. And the Jews during Passover also would want to come and pray at this site, the Dome of the Rock. Usually we see them, I don't know if you watch the news, but usually on the news, you see them passing by. So not exactly entering the mosque, but passing by this Dome of the Rock. And they don't enter it. They don't enter it yet. And I will tell you why not yet. But they do intend to, in future years or in the coming time, to enter this place. Now, because they believe that the Jewish temple, and here you can see a picture, an image of the Jewish temple. You can see they believe that the Jewish temple was situated in the same place 2,000 years ago, in the same place where the Dome of the Rock is found. So for them, it's also a sacred space for them. Now, the thing is that the Church of the Holy Sepulchre is not very far away from the Dome of the Rock. It's just a few meters away. And here in the slide, you see an image of the old city of Jerusalem. So, and this is why I think that because of the tension, usually this was what was happening in the past, 2 years at least. Usually access to the holy places is limited. And this limitation will be confronted by challenging this limitation, and perhaps violently. Now, this is, of course, the apparent reason for the clashes and for the violence, meaning that this is the reason that if somebody listens to the news would hear that this was the reason for any like violent confrontation or violent clashes taking place in Jerusalem around this time. But I think that there's a deeper reason, because I've been observing the events over the past few years. So there's a deeper reason. And I think also the deeper reason is connected to the themes and archetypes of Saturn going through Pisces. And so again, just to emphasize the idea that the followers of the three religions will display, perhaps violently, this lack of understanding of how emotions and the sense of security is linked to belief. And that is one distortion of Saturn in Pisces, I think. And to explain the idea of the deeper reason of what's going on, I have these images here on the slides, and these images are not real images, meaning that they are not taking place now, but they are future depictions of what might happen. And you can see in the images here that they are trying to build or trying to remove, to put or install parts of the Jewish temple next to the Dome of the Rock. And in the image that you see on the right side of the screen, you can see the skeleton of the Jewish temple. In this case, it would be the third Jewish temple in place of the Dome of the Rock. And these images are found on the internet, like they're found all over the internet. Now, will this take place? We don't know. I mean, there are many obstacles for this to take place. It's a highly controversial issue. It's a highly sensitive issue. And the question remains if this will take place or when will this take place, because it's not happening for sure. However, it's interesting how these images and how the increase in the number of Orthodox Jews passing in front of the Dome of the Rock, how these highlight how belief can be the driver of the agenda, of the region's agenda, even the world's agenda. Now, of course, according to Jewish belief, according to biblical prophecies, both Christian and Jewish prophecies, building the third Jewish temple is high time. They believe, meaning the Orthodox Jews, the ultra-Orthodox Jews, they believe that building this temple, that this is the time in history to build the third Jewish temple. And building the third Jewish temple is linked, according to their belief, to the coming of the Messiah, the Jewish Messiah. And the Jewish Messiah is considered as a king. It's the only one, he is the only one he's worthy to govern over them. Now, to Christians, to many Christians, this figure, the Jewish Messiah, will be the Antichrist, or will be considered the Antichrist. Now, to Muslims, similarly, this figure, which is linked to this third Jewish temple, will be what we call ad-Dajjal, which means also the false one. And to modern spiritual believers, or if you allow me to call them the modern spiritual atheists, and to Kabbalists, similarly, these same religious concepts are considered, of course, to be conceptual, metaphorical, in the sense that these concepts are understood not to be linked to physical objects or physical figures, but they are to be understood metaphorically. But still, for me, I see that that belief puts most of these strong believers in the same position, where they are out of conscious choice. They are choosing not to see the other religions or the other belief systems. So this conscious disregard of the other or the other beliefs or religion is acting like a fog, artificial fog, where it's shrouding reality. And the reality is that what is sacred to one religion is also sacred to another religion. And so I think the timing or the passing of Saturn through Pisces is saying that even if violent confrontations take place, it is because Saturn is providing the context for disillusionment, for removing the fog. In a way, Saturn is saying, time to grow up, time to build boundaries, time to address these issues among the three religions. And I think that the idea here is that it's time for the three religions to understand the idea of sacredness as something that connects us all or unites us all, rather than fighting over a sacred structure, sacred building. Now, I will add some more information just to clarify the story that is unfolding over here, unfolding for the collective and unfolding for us, but also to explain further the idea of sacredness between or for the religions, for two religions in this case, the Judaism and Islam. Now here I have an image of this area, this space, this like square space inside the walls. I mean, it's a bedrock. I don't know if you can see the bedrock in the picture over here, but there are two separate structures. There's the one with the golden dome, which is called the Dome of the Rock, and there's also the separate building, which is Al-Aqsa Mosque. I mean, it's clearly indicating. And as you have seen in the images before of building the third Jewish temple, some Orthodox Jews or some images, future depictions, depict that the third Jewish temple will be built or can be, or if it is built, because this is, as I said, highly controversial, can be built in place of Al-Aqsa Mosque. So that's one of the images that we've seen, but also there are some who believe that it should be in place of the Dome of the Rock as well. So, and there aren't enough archaeologically decisive proof as where it was. So it's still not final in terms of Judaism. Now, also I've provided an image from inside the Dome of the Rock, and you can see here the dome, which is very, like, I think it's very exquisite. It's really beautiful from its side. And I mean, this building of the Dome of the Rock really dominates the city, and it's it can be seen from wherever you go, and it's shining like day and night wherever you go. But also under this dome is the rock, the sacred rock. And this rock is very sacred for Muslims, because in the Quran, this is where the prophet, the story is, this is where the prophet ascended to heaven from this rock. And so this is a highly contested place or site for between Jews and Muslims. And I think that these followers of both of these religions they highly identify with this structure, with this place. And both of them are very mistrusting of each other's motives because they feel that their religious identity can be threatened or even erased at some point. And this is why this period of celebrations where each wants to go and pray in these holy sites is very, can be very confrontational. I think also that Saturn through Pisces, as I said, is providing, through these clashes and confrontation, is providing the context for disillusionment. I think I mentioned this. And I think this image, these images speak a lot for me because the picture of this girl's face projected onto the dome of the rock, and also the image of the young boy standing next to the model of the third Jewish temple is, in a way, they speak to this identification with this place, the strong identification with it, the idea that this is mine, it belongs to me and me alone. And rather than emphasizing on the oneness as something that unites us all. So instead of the idea of oneness with a structure, this strong identification with a structure, instead of that, I think there's an invitation from Saturn in Pisces to consider oneness as something that unites us all. And this is the idea, I think, this is the distortion of Saturn in Pisces, at least in the context of this conflict, where there's a strong identification with an outside structure, instead of the idea of sacredness as something that unites us, and instead of the idea of oneness that unites us. And just to sum up my presentation, I think that this these belief systems that out of conscious choice do not want to see each other so these belief systems, let me just have a look here. I think one evolutionary message for these belief systems who do not want to see each other, I think one evolutionary message here is that these violent confrontations can be greatly painful. This process of disillusionment, of removing the fog, can be very painful, but at the same time, they are very potent. And I think that's the hopeful message of Pisces. Because the ending phase or the closing phase of Pisces does involve a crisis. It does involve a conflict. It does involve a collision between beliefs and faiths. And this violent confrontations can be a necessary step, or they can be considered a necessary step towards accelerating the mutation towards a real Piscean realm, away from the personal and cultural structures of the past, and into a future that we all dream of. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Diana. That was just fascinating.
Thank you.
I appreciate your joining us.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.